If you're confused about someone, this is not love, it's a warning. Because in Islam, what's written with barakah does not keep your heart in chaos. Before you ask where this is going, you need to ask why Allah allowed this confusion to enter your life. Listen carefully, because what you do next will either protect your heart or drain it. Confusion does not enter the heart without purpose. It arrives when something looks promising on the surface, but lacks alignment beneath. In Islam, Allah does not guide through chaos. He guides through clarity and sakina. When your heart feels unsettled, it is not weakness, it is awareness. That discomfort is your fitra responding to something that doesn't sit right. Before you romanticize confusion, understand that it is information. And information, when ignored, becomes pain. Many people mistake emotional intensity for meaning. The stronger the pull, the more they assume it must be destiny. But Islam teaches the opposite. What is written with barakah brings calm, not constant inner debate. Confusion often shows up when desire is loud but direction is missing. Your heart keeps circling the same questions because the path ahead isn't clean. Allah allows this feeling so you pause before you attach too deeply. It is mercy disguised as discomfort. When something is truly meant for you, it does not demand that you abandon your peace to keep it alive. You do not need to overthink every word, replay every interaction, or decode silence. The moment your heart becomes a courtroom arguing for and against the same person, something is off. Allah does not require you to beg your own heart to feel safe. Confusion is the signal that you're trying to force certainty where Allah has not placed it. A heart that is guided feels anchored even during tests. A confused heart feels scattered, anxious, and unsure of its own footing. This difference matters. One strengthens Iman, the other drains it. If thinking about someone pulls you away from presence with Allah, that is not love elevating you, it is attachment consuming you. Allah alerts you early so you don't normalize emotional instability. Guidance often whispers before it ever shouts. People often ask Allah for signs while ignoring the clearest one already present. That sign is the state of the heart. Islam never separates spirituality from emotional health. A path that weakens your self-respect, boundaries, or trust in Allah is not a blessed one. Confusion is the inner resistance Allah places to protect you from settling for less than what He intends. When you listen to it, you save yourself months or years of regret. Confusion also exposes where the heart has become dependent. If your peace rises and falls based on someone's attention, replies, or availability, the issue is not them alone. It is the heart placing weight where it doesn't belong. Allah allows confusion to break unhealthy emotional reliance. He reminds you that no creation was meant to carry the role of stability that only He fulfills. This realization is not punishment, it is recalibration. There is a reason clarity in Islam is tied to intention and action, not words. Confusion grows when promises stay vague and effort stays inconsistent. A heart that keeps waiting for clarity from someone unwilling to provide it will slowly erode its own dignity. Allah signals you before that happens. He unsettles you so you don't settle incorrectly. What feels uncomfortable now prevents something far more painful later. Some hearts stay confused because they are afraid of the answer clarity would bring. Letting go feels heavier than waiting, even when waiting is exhausting. Allah sees this hesitation, so He places confusion as a pressure point until the heart is forced to choose truth over attachment. Confusion pushes you to confront what you already sense but haven't accepted. It narrows the path until honesty becomes unavoidable. A calm heart does not need constant reassurance. It trusts the direction it's walking in. Confusion, on the other hand, keeps you stuck in loops, thinking, hoping, doubting, repeating. Islam teaches forward movement with intention, not emotional limbo. Allah disrupts stagnation by unsettling the heart. He is teaching you that clarity is not something you wait for passively, it is something you require actively. Confusion often arrives when the soul senses misalignment between values and behavior. What you believe about halal, respect, and responsibility may not match what you're experiencing. That gap creates tension. Allah does not want you to silence that tension. He wants you to honor it. The heart becomes uneasy because it recognizes a contradiction that the mind is trying to excuse. Many people fear confusion because it threatens the fantasy they've built. But fantasies are fragile. Truth is stable. Allah breaks illusions gently before they harden into heartbreak. Confusion is that gentle fracture. It is the moment Allah says, "Look closer." Not everything that feels good leads somewhere good, and not everything that challenges you is meant to stay. When you ignore confusion, you begin negotiating with your boundaries. You accept less clarity, less effort, less respect, telling yourself patience will fix it. But patience in Islam is not passive suffering. Patience is active. Trust paired with correct action. Allah places confusion to stop you from calling endurance a virtue when it's actually avoidance. The heart knows when patience has turned into self-betrayal. A guided heart feels heavier when it's about to make the wrong turn. That weight is protection. Allah places it so you slow down. Confusion asks you to reassess before commitment deepens. It invites you to return to principles instead of emotions. If you listen, you realign. If you ignore it, you drift further from yourself. Confusion also tests sincerity. Are you seeking what pleases Allah or what soothes your loneliness? Are you asking for guidance or permission to keep what you're attached to? Allah reveals this through the state of your heart. When confusion persists, it is often because the heart is resisting the guidance it already received. Acceptance brings relief. Resistance prolongs unrest. There is a difference between uncertainty during growth and confusion rooted in inconsistency. Growth stretches the heart but does not destabilize it. Confusion destabilizes because the foundation is weak. Allah does not build futures on shaky ground. He alerts you early so you can step back and rebuild properly or walk away entirely. Either way, He protects your akhirah and your dignity. Some connections feel intense because they activate unresolved wounds, not because they're meant to last. Confusion shows up when old patterns resurface. Allah brings this awareness to heal you, not to shame you. He wants you whole before you unite with anyone else. The signal is clear. Heal first, then connect. Skip this step, and the confusion returns in another form. When clarity is from Allah, it brings relief, even if the answer is difficult. When confusion dominates, it drains, even when hope remains. Pay attention to what your heart feels after you pray, not after you scroll or replay conversations. Allah speaks through the quiet that follows sincere dua. Confusion fades when you align with that quiet. It grows when you run from it. The heart was created to recognize truth. When it feels restless, something is asking for correction. Allah uses confusion as a checkpoint. He invites you to stop, reflect, and choose again with awareness this time. The signal is not telling you to panic. It is telling you to listen before you move forward. In the end, confusion is not the enemy. Ignoring it is. Allah does not want you lost. He wants you guided. So He sends signals before consequences. When you learn to read confusion correctly, it stops controlling you. It becomes a teacher leading you back to peace, clarity, and trust in Allah's wisdom. Confusion does not survive on its own. It needs fuel. And that fuel is constant access. Every message you send, every reply you wait for, every profile you check, keeps the uncertainty alive. Islam teaches that the heart settles when unnecessary doors are closed. Right now, your heart is overstimulated. not informed. Before you ask Allah for clarity, you must remove what is drowning out His guidance. Most people try to figure things out while still emotionally plugged in. That never works. You cannot hear truth clearly while your heart is being pulled in 10 directions. Distance is not punishment. It is perspective. Allah often creates space so you can finally see what closeness was hiding. When you step back, the noise lowers. And when the noise lowers, reality becomes louder. Stopping contact is not about playing games or testing someone. It is about honesty with yourself. If your peace depends on their presence, that dependency needs to be interrupted. Islam does not encourage emotional addiction. It encourages balance, dignity, and self-control. When you pause interaction, you are not abandoning love. You are protecting your heart from confusion that keeps repeating the same lesson. Many people are afraid to step back because they fear losing the person, but what they're really afraid of is losing the illusion. If someone disappears the moment you stop chasing, that absence is an answer. Allah shows you who is willing to meet you with effort and who only stays when it costs them nothing. Distance reveals intention more clearly than confrontation ever will. Confusion thrives on unpredictability. One day warmth, the next day silence. One message pulls you in, the next leaves you questioning everything. Islam does not operate on emotional whiplash. A halal path is consistent, transparent, and respectful. When you keep exposing yourself to inconsistency, your nervous system stays alert, anxious, and attached. Stepping back breaks that cycle. Stopping the constant checking is just as important as stopping contact. Every time you look for signs, online status, stories, indirect messages, you reopen the loop. This behavior feels harmless, but it trains your heart to stay restless. Allah does not guide through obsession. He guides through stillness. You cannot receive clarity if you refuse to stop scanning for reassurance. Silence is uncomfortable because it removes distraction, but that discomfort is where truth surfaces. When you stop feeding the confusion, you begin to feel what's underneath it: grief, fear, longing, or relief. All of these are information. Islam teaches self-awareness, not suppression. Silence gives you the data you've been avoiding by staying busy with contact. Distance also restores your self-respect. When you are always available, always responding, always adjusting, you teach people how to treat you. Islam places honor on the believer. Your time, energy, and emotions are amana. When you pause access, you reclaim ownership of that amana. You remind yourself that your heart is not public property. Many people think stepping back means giving up. In reality, it means handing the situation back to Allah. You stop trying to manage outcomes with effort and anxiety. You say, "Ya Allah, I've done my part. Now I trust you to show me what this truly is." That shift alone brings relief, because the burden was never meant to be yours alone. When you stop initiating, observe what happens without commentary. Do they step forward with clarity, or do they stay silent and distant? Actions speak when words fail. Islam values actions over promises. You are not looking for dramatic gestures, just consistency and responsibility. If nothing changes when you step back, that information is guidance. Distance exposes whether the connection was mutual or one-sided. Confusion often exists because one person is carrying most of the emotional weight. When you stop, you see who was really invested. Allah allows this clarity so you stop exhausting yourself trying to hold something together that was never balanced. Stopping contact also calms the body. Confusion is not only spiritual, it is physiological. Constant anticipation keeps your system in stress mode. When you step back, your breathing slows, your thoughts settle, and your heart regains rhythm. Islam cares about this balance. A path that constantly destabilizes you is not meant to be normalized. Some fear that silence will ruin their chances. But what is written for you does not require desperation to survive. Allah does not need you anxious to deliver what is destined. If something falls apart because you chose peace, it was not held together by barakah. What remains after you choose dignity is what deserves to stay. This pause also prepares you for honest self-reflection. Without distraction, you begin to ask better questions. Not, how do I keep this? But, is this good for my deen, my future, my akhirah? Islam teaches that the right questions lead to the right answers. Silence sharpens those questions. When you stop feeding confusion, you may feel withdrawal. That does not mean you made the wrong choice. It means attachment is loosening. Healing often feels like discomfort before it feels like freedom. Allah removes things gently when we allow Him to. Resistance prolongs pain. Surrender shortens it. Distance shows you whether you were hoping for change or accepting reality. Many people stay confused because they're in love with potential, not truth. Islam does not ask you to marry potential. It asks you to assess character, responsibility, and readiness. Stepping back collapses fantasies and reveals facts. You may notice that when you stop reaching out, your heart begins to remember Allah more. Du'as become calmer. Prayers feel more focused. This is not coincidence. When distractions reduce, connection with Allah increases. Confusion fades when the heart returns to its original source of security. Silence also teaches patience correctly. Not the patience of waiting endlessly, but the patience of restraint. Islam honors the believer who can pause, reflect, and choose wisely instead of reacting emotionally. This kind of patience strengthens character and protects future relationships. Stopping contact does not mean you close your heart forever. It means you close the door temporarily to see whether it should reopen properly or remain closed. Islam values doors that open with dignity. If a door requires you to shrink yourself to keep it open, Allah is inviting you to walk away. In this space, trust Allah's timing. Do not rush to fill the silence. Let it speak. Let it reveal. Allah's answers often arrive quietly, not dramatically. When you stop feeding confusion, you give clarity room to enter. And clarity, once it arrives, does not argue with your heart. It settles it. This is why this step comes first. Before conversations, before decisions, before conclusions. Stop feeding the confusion. Create space. And allow Allah to show you what was always there, waiting for you to stop looking away. Once the noise settles and distance creates space, a more uncomfortable question rises to the surface. What you're feeling, is it love or is it attachment? Many people avoid this question because attachment can feel just as intense as love, sometimes even stronger. But Islam makes a clear distinction. Love brings stability. Attachment brings anxiety. One expands the heart. The other tightens it until breathing feels difficult. Attachment is loud. It keeps the mind busy replaying conversations, imagining outcomes, fearing loss. Love is quiet. It trusts without constant reassurance. If your emotions spike and crash based on someone's attention, replies, or availability, that is not love guiding you, it is dependency controlling you. Allah did not design the heart to orbit another human being. He designed it to rest with Him. Ask yourself honestly, when you think of this person, do you feel calm or tense? Do you feel grounded or unsettled? Love does not keep you in a constant state of emotional vigilance. Attachment does. Attachment fears distance, silence, and uncertainty. Love can withstand space because it is not built on insecurity. Islam values connections that strengthen iman, not ones that drain emotional stability. Many people confuse longing with love. Longing often comes from absence, inconsistency, and unmet needs. The heart starts chasing what it cannot secure. Love, however, does not need to chase. It grows in clarity, presence, and responsibility. If the strongest feeling you have is fear of losing them, that fear deserves attention. Islam does not ask you to bond through fear. Attachment often forms around potential rather than reality. You're not attached to who the person consistently is, but to who you believe they could become. This imagined future keeps the heart invested, even when the present offers little reassurance. Allah brings confusion to collapse this illusion. He asks you to look at what is happening, not what you hope will happen. Love does not require you to shrink your standards to survive. Attachment slowly erodes them. You begin justifying behavior you once said you would never accept. You tell yourself you're being patient, but deep down you feel compromised. Islam never asks you to sacrifice dignity in the name of connection. If staying attached costs you self-respect, it is not a noble sacrifice, it is a warning. Attachment is also rooted in fear of emptiness. The thought of being alone feels heavier than staying confused. But Islam reframes solitude as a space of strength, not deficiency. Allah does not want you clinging to someone because you fear your own silence. He wants you complete enough that you choose companionship, not dependence. Notice how your body reacts. Attachment keeps the nervous system alert. Your chest feels tight. Your thoughts race. You're constantly bracing for disappointment. Love allows the body to relax. The heart feels safe, even when answers are not immediate. This physical response is not random. Allah created the body to reflect inner truth. Attachment demands constant validation. Love trusts consistency over time. If you need frequent reassurance to feel secure, something is unbalanced. Islam teaches emotional moderation, not suppression but regulation. A connection that overwhelms your emotional equilibrium is not meant to be normalized. Allah signals this through unrest. Another sign of attachment is losing presence in other areas of life. Your prayers feel distracted, your focus weakens, your emotional energy narrows around one person. Love, when healthy, does not isolate you from the rest of your world. It integrates smoothly into it. Islam values balance. Anything that consumes you entirely is asking for correction. Attachment often forms when boundaries were never clear. Emotional access was given before commitment, clarity, or direction. The heart bonded without protection. Islam protects hearts through structure, through halal pathways, family involvement, and intention. When those safeguards are missing, attachment fills the gap and confusion follows. Ask yourself this difficult question: if this person never changed, would you still choose this path? Not the version you hope they become, the version you experience now. Love is rooted in acceptance of reality. Attachment survives on expectation. Allah brings clarity when the heart is ready to stop negotiating with truth. Attachment resists endings, even when endings bring relief. Love accepts outcomes, trusting Allah's wisdom. If the idea of letting go feels like losing your identity or your future, something has shifted out of balance. Islam teaches that no creation should hold that much power over your sense of self. Many attachments are formed during vulnerability, loneliness, heartbreak, uncertainty. Allah allows you to see this so you can heal the wound instead of building a relationship around it. He does not shame you for attaching. He guides you out of it. Confusion is part of that guidance. Love invites growth. Attachment demands accommodation. Love challenges you gently toward better character. Attachment asks you to tolerate discomfort to avoid loss. Pay attention to which one you're experiencing. Allah does not want your heart trapped in survival mode. Attachment keeps you stuck in questions. Love moves toward answers. Islam encourages clarity because clarity protects the soul. If months pass and confusion remains the dominant state, something is wrong. Guidance does not leave the heart in endless uncertainty. When you begin to detach, you may feel grief. That does not mean you were wrong. It means the bond was real but not necessarily right. Islam acknowledges emotional pain without romanticizing emotional harm. Healing sometimes hurts before it frees. As attachment loosens, something important happens. You begin to feel yourself again. Your thoughts widen, your prayers deepen, your sense of worth stabilizes. This is not loss. This is restoration. Allah returns you to yourself before giving you to anyone else. Love in Islam does not ask you to abandon peace to prove loyalty. It walks alongside peace. If peace only appears when you imagine walking away, that is guidance speaking quietly. Allah often answers not with words, but with emotional alignment. In the end, love and attachment feel similar only at the beginning. Over time, they lead to very different destinations. One leads to stability and barakah. The other leads to exhaustion and confusion. Allah gives you the awareness to tell them apart if you are willing to look honestly. This is why confusion exists. Not to torture you, but to awaken you, to help you separate what feels intense from what is truly meant. When you choose clarity over attachment, you choose the path that Allah protects, even if it requires courage to walk away from what once felt everything. If choosing peace means losing someone, then Allah never meant that person to stay. What is written for you will not require confusion to survive. Let go with trust, because Allah replaces what drains you with what settles you.